I am worried because I know as a trustee, a parent, and a community member in the Interlake School Division, I have no interest in trying to explain to someone from Ericsdale why the school in Balmoral is worthy of music programming that sees their middle year students benefiting from resources that allow for collaboration between their school and Stonewall Collegiate a few miles up the road. I would have very little patience for the time it would take to explain to someone from Pinawa who perhaps has never been to Argyle why the 100-plus-year-old Brant Argyle School is the heart and soul of that tiny prairie community and why its local school board should be protecting it. Imagine my frustration in trying to advocate for the important alternative education program that exists centrally in a non-school space within our school division to someone from St. Clements, Grand Marais, Beausejour, or Oak Bank. It's not that these people wouldn't be well-intentioned. It's not that they wouldn't eventually figure it out to some satisfactory extent. It's that they shouldn't have to in the first place. Because there is no evidence that student outcomes in any of those communities that I've listed would improve as a result of being a part of a much larger school division. And worse, the time and taxpayer money wasted in all of the explaining and familiarization and harmonization could have been spent on actually working to improve learning environments and conditions so that, you guessed it, we might see sustained improvements in student outcomes. The communities that I've referenced are all part of what is now the 61,000 square kilometer expanse known as the Interlake Eastman Regional Health Authority, serving a population of 129,000 people from as far north as Gypsumville on the west side of Lake Winnipeg and as far north as Barons River on the east side of the lake, to the North Perimeter Highway at the intersection of Number 6 Highway in the southwest, and to West Hawk Lake on the Ontario border in the region's southeast corner. I'm using this analogy to frame up my concerns because, as you've undoubtedly heard, some of the speculation out there is that the K-12 Education Review is going to recommend that school divisions mirror the boundaries of this province's regional health authorities. With the creation of regional health authority boards appointed by government, often but not always along partisan lines, the voices of local people in the provision of local health care in local hospitals, clinics, and long-term care facilities was in many cases all but erased. Of course, this only exacerbated the problems of doctor shortages, ER closures, ambulance wait times, and the list goes on. I'm not trying to imply that the creation of regional health authorities caused these problems exclusively. In fact, they were already cropping up in the 90s. But there are too many Manitobans today who would tell you that centralized regional decision-making has damaged the provision of healthcare in their communities. When a group of people, none of which reside in or anywhere near close to a particular community, come to a meeting to discuss the shortage of doctors in that same community, it's not going to be a productive conversation without representation of those impacted families at the table. That's just common sense. As with healthcare, we know that dissolution of the local voice in education would be costly, damaging, and unsustainable. But here we are, 415 days since the start of the K-12 review, when Minister Gertsen blew the door wide open on the prospect of forced amalgamation and elimination of school boards. And from then until today, there has been not one official word that would lead us to believe that those outcomes can be ruled out, despite the fact that there has never been any basis for them in the first place. On one hand, we've heard governments say in the last 14 months that they will hold off on all communication about the future of education in this province until the recommendations have been made by the Review Commission, and that further considerations and consultations may be a part of the path forward, depending on those recommendations. On the other hand, we've heard governments say that they plan to enact on all of the recommendations of the Commission, every single one, even though they have yet to know what they are. So it follows naturally that in the complete absence of clear communication, combined with mixed messaging from government and the commissioners themselves, speculation has been rampant. In Nova Scotia, following last year's deplorable overnight elimination of school boards by that province's government, momentum continues to build at the grassroots level among teachers, families, and average Nova Scotians who instantly recognized that they had been led astray by their government when it said that the Ministry of Education could somehow unilaterally meet the needs of individual communities that had otherwise been met by their local board. Closer to home, we need to look no further than Ontario in the east and to Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia in the west for crystal clear examples of the value of respectful and engaged relationships between school boards, locally elected school boards, and their provincial government when it comes to generating improved student outcomes. In spite of so many examples of positive reinforcement of the value of school boards, both within this province as part of the review and across this country, I, like you, am still worried.